Hello, everybody. Chad Eves here, and we're going to touch on something that's going on in the news right now, and this is the drama going on at OpenAI. Now, if you're not familiar with OpenAI, this is the company behind ChatGPT, the AI quote-unquote program. I'm going to avoid getting on my AI high horse right here. But on Friday, the board forced out the CEO, who was one of the founders, Sam Altman. It happens. It always gets some news, like when Steve Jobs was forced out, stuff like that. And the reason given for this by the board is that Altman had been less than candid in some of the communications with the board. We don't know what that means. We'll see if that comes out over time. But what kind of made this more interesting, though, is within a matter of days, a letter was sent to the board by a large number of employees demanding that they resign, that they were incapable of running the company, that they didn't want to work under a board like this. And I'm using some pretty harsh language for employees on a board, especially if they don't have an ownership stock, which was my impression they do not. And they put their names to this. Now, as of this morning, the number was up to like 650 or so. There's only like 750 employees in the company, so it's a lot of people. The thing that makes me wonder, though, is how much of this was a reasoned, logical action versus it was an emotional knee jerk, because it happened really quick. And in situations like this, when people are let go or similar types of acts, employees don't necessarily have all the information. And what drove them to make this decision? Was it just how they like this guy, or was there something else going on behind the scenes that wasn't known? It's kind of doubtful they had all the information, but you never know. Also, the speed at which this happened. Was there any kind of coordination? Because if they were demanding that they hire the CEO back by Sunday morning, when apparently he was negotiating with the board, that fell apart because he demanded they resign. They told him to go pound sand and hired somebody else. So by Monday morning, Wall Street Journal got a hold of the letter. And so they had not hired the previous CEO, hired a new one, had a letter with hundreds of employees named on it, claiming that they may resign. Not real strong wording, to be quite honest. And there were various comments also on social media by people that claim that they're OpenAI employees, that without them, the company is nothing. Partially true. I mean, you have expertise, you have people with skills, but this field is not as small as it was, 3, 4, 5 years ago. There's more people in it. There's probably more talent in it. And very few people are truly irreplaceable. The other thing, too, is while the people might leave, who owns the IP? They can go work for somewhere else. Like, they claim they have assurances from Microsoft that they'll get jobs. That has not been confirmed by Microsoft, at least as of the articles I read earlier today. But that doesn't mean who has access to the IP. Maybe Microsoft does, because they are an investor up to 49% of OpenAI. So maybe they have access to that information. Maybe they don't. A lot of unknowns here, at least to the general public, including myself. So the time frame that this all happened is very interesting. From the CEO getting forced out for allegedly not being candid in communications with the board, this letter coming out with hundreds of employees signing on it, and the language used in that letter, which doesn't really make those employees look like attractive candidates to hire for a job potentially. And it's worth noting, too, that there have been articles in the past couple of years of companies leaving California because of the entitled attitude of employees at these companies, and that people are getting tired of dealing with it. Now, in all fairness, the people that run these companies created these little monsters of employees wanting to tell the companies what to do. We saw this in Google when they were up for a contract to work with the DoD on some kind of technology project. They were like, "Oh, we don't want to work on a project that kills people or whatever." They'll sit here and enjoy being protected by the Department of Defense in this country, but they don't want to do work because of some moral outrage. But that aside, this is having an impact. There are companies that have left because of employees trying to influence what the business does. So it's something to keep in mind. Going with the herd like this, not always the best move. Something you really need to think about as far as how that can impact you further down the road. These people could find themselves like not having a choice of whether or not they're going to resign or not. And I don't know if they have written guarantees from Microsoft that they're going to have a job or not. Now, other factor in this is there was a person that was participating with the board. I'm not sure if he's on the board or not. Ilya Sutskever, who had a role in ousting Altman. But then he signed the letter demanding the board resign, and also said that he regretted the actions he participated in to get rid of Altman. And this flip happened within a space of days. This person's supposed to be an executive with the company, and it's just like another demonstration in the public of someone in an executive role changing their mind after making a decision. If you need to be sure about making a decision. Now, does that mean mistakes are never made? No, they happen. But this is a pretty big one. You're impacting someone's livelihood, company, money, all kinds of different aspects to within 3 to 4 days, if not shorter. Oops, I messed up. Executives need to be, in my opinion, held accountable for their decisions. And when they do something wrong, they should have to pay a price just like anybody else who makes a mistake. More so would be my opinion. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out with this individual. The other wild card here is Microsoft. They hired Altman and the other co-founder that left that was president and brought them into Microsoft as some kind of subsidiary or division or something like that. Incredibly fast. Microsoft's generally a well-run company, so it'll be interesting to see exactly what happened with that, who knew what, when, and when all this happened. So in closing, there's really kind of 2 takeaways. Be very wary of signing a letter like this, especially one that uses pretty harsh languages and threatens an action. Because if nothing else, if you don't take the action, you're going to look weak. And this letter, you really could be overstepping your bounds. So always be mindful of doing something like this. If you are fully committed to it, then go for it. But, people that may be your allies at the moment may not be so much when people start losing their jobs. Secondly, if you're an executive, make a decision with the best information that you have available and that you think is the right thing to do, and then stick with it. This flip-flopping, and these people get paid a lot of money. When you're talking about the CEO of Bud Light or, Bill Maher and Drew Barrymore when they were going to restart their talk shows during the writer's strike, and then they flip-flopped when they got, criticized for that and going against the writers union. And then, in this situation of someone changing their mind within days, it's not an executive's primary job is to make a decision and see that it's enacted. It almost kind of feels like people that do this, and I don't know if this is the case here, they're trying to play both sides. Oh, I did this, but no, I shouldn't have done that. I agree with you. And it's a bad look for someone whose job is to make decisions, essentially. So following the news, we don't really know what's going on. It's interesting to see what is going on and how people are throwing their hat in the ring, putting their careers at risk or not, or maybe they're taking a valiant stand. We'll see perhaps as this shakes out. So until I see you next time online in the internets or in person, take care. Talk to you later.